Leading stories, trending topics, changing narratives. You're listening to the Critical Conversations podcast.
That's right. Welcome back to another episode of Critical Conversations, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. Rick Daniels, Director of Institutional Equity and Inclusion, right here at Oakton College. Today, we have a very special episode for you. I am excited to have in studio with us our president, Dr. Joianne Smith. This year, we celebrate 10 years of leadership and service. And with that longstanding history, we want to take this episode to highlight some of the accomplishments and the challenges that Joy has experienced, but also to explore what the future holds for not just Oakton, but her career as well. Joy, thank you for joining us again. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Rick. Happy to be here. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since I've been in this role.
It has been. And I have been here for 7 of those 10 years. So we've seen quite a few things happen together. So thanks for being with us today. I want to get right into it. Today, we're going to talk about your journey and how you have grown as a person, how you've grown as a professional, how you believe the college has grown over the last 10 years that you've been in this seat. But I want to start back at the beginning and tell us about how you came to Oakton, because you were in a position before the presidency, right? So please tell us a little bit about your journey, what led you to Oakton, and then how we got that to the presidency.
So I joined Oakton in 2002. So I've been here now a little over 23 years, which is really hard to believe. Wow. But I came as the Dean of Students. And that really was what drew me to Oakton. I had been a Dean of Students at a previous institution. My husband and I relocated to the Chicagoland area. And I was looking for opportunities to continue that work. I had never worked at a community college. However, prior to coming to Oakton, I had worked in 4-year public and private spaces. So this was my first community college. But in my role at Northwestern, which was the first role that I had before coming to Oakton, my boss there knew what I valued and knew what I cared about. He said, you really need to look at the community college space. So when the Dean of Students position opened at Oakton, I applied and was delighted that I was given the opportunity to come to Oakton. And after being here probably 3 or 4 weeks, I said to my husband, I'm never going back to the 4-year space again. That what I found at Oakton was a mission that aligned with my personal values. I always valued relationship-rich educational environments where students and faculty got to know one another, where faculty and staff knew one another. And I found that at Oakton, and the mission of access really spoke to me. So that's what drew me here 23 and a half years ago.
Yeah, wow. That's let's stay there for a second and tell me about your time as Dean of Students. That was my position before I came to Oakton as well. And I can tell you that that's a tough job. You know, sometimes it's really hard to take that off at the end of the day. You deal with a lot of student conduct, student issues. And of course, you are behind some of the policies and procedures that govern the institution ultimately. Can you tell us a little bit about your time as Dean of Students and what were some of the more meaningful things that took place during that experience for you?
So I'm going to go back even before I became Dean of Students. I'm also a licensed psychologist who did a postdoc in college student mental health. So I really enjoy working with students in that population. And I feel like where I thrived was helping students with whatever was the emergent issue that they were struggling with. So students who come to the Dean of Students office are typically students who are struggling. They're either struggling and they're acting inward. So they're sad, scared, don't know where to turn for support, or they're acting out in its conduct. And so being a person who can help listen to a student, understand what their concerns are, try to de-escalate a situation, listen to faculty and staff who are struggling with student issues. Those are places and spaces. The work is hard. No 2 days are the same. You never knew what was going to happen that day. But I really enjoyed that work. And there are times I miss that direct student contact, to be honest with you. That's one of the challenges when you move into additional senior administrative roles. So I served as the Dean of Students for 2.5 years and then was promoted to the Vice President for Student Affairs. And I served in that role for 10 years, still had student contact, but not as much contact as I had when I was the Dean of Students. And I missed that student contact. So there are days I missed those Dean of Student days.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. It's almost like the higher you go, the less contact you have with students. And so you have to be very intentional about that. I we'll get into this a little bit in terms of how you do that now. But have you always been that intentional about student contact? And the reason I ask is because you told me a story about the lifesavers phenomenon, which we're going to get into in a second. But from a broader perspective, have you always been intentional about the time that you spend with students?
Yes, and even more intentional about it as I moved into higher level administrative roles, that students are my touchstone.
Right.
That's why I do this work.
Like the base, the home base.
Right. And so being intentional about spending time with students is critical to me in order to remind me of why I show up every day. And so I do make every effort to have intentional contact with students.
Awesome. So leadership often finds us in unexpected ways, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us about how it found you and what led you to be interested and ultimately apply for the job as president when it opened up.
To be very honest, I was not seeking a presidency. There are still days that I think I've done this for 10 years. This was never part of the plan, but I had the opportunity. My predecessor was retiring after having served in the role for 20 years. She had, and others had encouraged me to consider stepping into that role. I wasn't seeking a presidency, but I believe...
So you didn't do any of the fellows programs or anything like that?
I did an Executive Leadership Institute program to see okay, let me explore this. And I came away from that program feeling like I could do this, but I still wasn't sure it was something I wanted to do. But it was okay, I think I could do this. For me, it was really about seeking to be the next leader of Oakton more than seeking a presidency. That I believed in the work that we did here. I knew that I wanted our values to continue. I knew that there was going to be a new leader, so my life was going to change one way or the other.
Yeah, no matter what.
And so I, talked candidly with my husband about what it would mean to apply, especially as an internal candidate. People know you. I'd been here for 12 and a half years.
So they know you. They
know
with
you, right?
Yeah.
So it's riskier, right? They know all of you.
Yeah.
And if you do your job well, probably not everybody is a fan. So I wasn't sure. It was a risk, but I very much believe in the work that we do here. And I wanted that work to continue. And I saw at the time places where I thought we could do even better than what we were doing right then. And so I put my name in as a candidate, and here I am 10 years later.
Yeah, 10 years later.
With a lot more gray hair.
Tell me about your first day on the job. We were kind of talking about this offline a little bit. I thought the story would be interesting. Tell me about your first day on the job and how that led to the Lifesavers culture that we have here at Oakton.
So I wanted to be very intentional on my first day to spend time with students because for me, as I said, students are the cornerstone of everything that we do at Oakton. And so I thought it was really important for me to spend time with students my first day. So I invited students to lunch. It was the first pasta with the president lunch, and those pasta with the president.
On the very first day, not even the first week.
No, it was my very first day. My very first day, I had lunch with students. And as a part of that lunch, I asked the students, is there somebody at Oakton who made a difference for you? And they gave me the names of faculty and staff who'd made a difference in their time at Oakton. And I asked them why. And then after that lunch, I took notes. I wrote handwritten notes to each of the faculty and staff whose names came up at that lunch and decided to give them a little Lifesaver piece of candy. I never anticipated it would become this thing, but it's become this thing. And so now I write a lot of Lifesaver notes and buy Lifesaver candies from Amazon in bulk.
Yeah, and people nominate people for Lifesavers, right? Yep.
They do. Early on, it was through those student lunches where I would gather names of faculty and staff who had made a difference. And over time, I heard people say, well, I want a Lifesaver too. And there are a lot of people at the college who might not be as student direct facing, so their names might not come up. But we're doing things behind the scenes that were critically important to students. And so created an opportunity for employees to nominate colleagues who were making a difference or had gone above and beyond. And so there's both a nomination process for Lifesavers as well as when I observe something or when a student gives me a name. So there are multiple mechanisms for getting somebody's name to me to get a Lifesaver note.
Is there a rhyme or reason behind it being a Lifesaver, or is that just your favorite candy and maybe that was the first thing you thought of?
No, it really was symbolic. So at my first...
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
that's the word I was looking for.
At my first fall orientation, and when I said I knew that there were things that Oakton could do better, I should backtrack. I knew that we really were... Our fall-to-fall persistence rates were far below what they really could be or should be, and that we were losing on average 5 students a day. That was, I compute 5 students a day were leaving Oakton. And so I had a call to action on my very first fall academic kickoff that if we all worked together and just saved one more, like we were saving a life, that we would increase our fall-to-fall persistence rates by 10%. So the lifesaver was symbolic of a way of you are making a difference, you are saving a life, you are keeping a student enrolled, on track, connected, they feel like they belong, you helped somebody. And so it was symbolic. I actually don't really like lifesavers as a candy, to be honest, which is probably a good thing because I'd be eating them all since they're always in my office. And they chocolate maybe, but not lifesavers.
I do, but I have to eat them when I get them because they get old and sugary. And the wrapper doesn't even come off all the way, so I have to eat them right away.
But I always have lifesavers in my office. So if you're craving a lifesaver, you can.
So if you're listening out there, if this podcast gets to anyone at the Lifesavers company, there's a potential endorsement here for you. Let me ask you this. What has been your proudest accomplishment? I know that it's 10 years is a long time. Since I've been here, we've seen exponential growth in facilities. We've gone through the pandemic. We've had enrollment challenges. We didn't have an alternative work arrangement. Now we do. We didn't have remote classes. Now we do. Adult learners. So much has happened in this last decade. Is there a standalone accomplishment or something that for you is a shining star, something that you take with you?
So hard to pick an accomplishment because there are so many. I think the thing that has been the greatest source of pride is how we have always focused on students. And I think increasingly over the last 10 years, we've really focused on not just access, but success using an equity lens. And so when I think of how we have really looked critically at our programs, our services, who we're serving, who we're not serving, who's missing from our tables, that focus is probably what I am most proud of institutionally, just in terms of the way we work, the things we talk about, the priorities that we have. In terms of a moment where I feel like it was an accomplishment for the college is the launch and opening of our new Health Careers Education Center in Evanston. And that is a culmination of so many people coming together to meet the needs of our community in partnership. It took a lot of work, but having our first physical presence in Evanston in partnership with a major employer, providing opportunities for economic mobility to wonderful jobs for members of our community, and meeting a workforce need through partnership, that's a highlight for sure when I look at a tangible example, but there are so many examples of moments of pride. But I think our focus on students, our community, and evolving to meet the needs of our community, I think is probably the biggest source of pride.
Yeah, I like that as an example because it takes a lot to cut that green ribbon, right? And so I think that, beyond the moment, there's so much that goes into putting that moment together. And I know I've been a part of the conversations around increasing presence in Evanston, opportunities for people there and how we can help with that. So I can see why that would be a major accomplishment for you.
Right. And people see the ribbon cutting and don't see all of the conversations. And there are so many people that were a part of making that happen, both at Oakton and in the community through our partnership. So it really, it was a true collaborative experience. And I think those are the most meaningful when you see what can happen when people with common values and vision come together, work hard, overcome challenges, are flexible and adjust.
Grace and flexibility.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's a proud moment.
I like the way that you kind of flip that too, in terms of it being a proud moment for the college, not just for you. I'm sure it was you were proud as a president, but also the college. That was a big day for everybody as well. Last question for you. It's a two-parter. What does the future look like for Oakton? And what does the future look like for Dr. Joianne Smith?
Those are hard questions. If only we had a magic 8-ball. I think Oakton is well positioned to really meet the needs of the future. One of the things I think we have really been on the cutting edge of is really being responsive. You think of all the changes that we've had. You mentioned several of them, right? The COVID pandemic, changes in workforce, demographic changes. Our students need different things. I think Oakton is positioned to respond to those things. So I think Oakton is well positioned to continue to respond. None of us knows what tomorrow brings, but I feel like there's a strong foundation here of committed employees who care about our students and our mission. And when committed people all share the same vision and work together, anything's possible. So I think Oakton is well positioned to continue that work. I think our work with Pathways to Opportunity really positions us to work in partnership with our K-12 partners, with our industry partners. And when we do partnerships, we can achieve so much more together. And I think we've seen that with the Health Careers Education Center. So I think there's more of that in Oakton's future. As I think to the future, I really do think that there's more that we can do in partnership with others to truly build that just and thriving community that we talk about. As for what's next for me.
Yeah, what about you? You got another 10 years left?
Right. Here's what I say to myself, and I believe this. I will show up here every single day I can while I feel like I am making a difference, that the work is meaningful, and that I feel like I can bring my best self and do our best work. So I don't know what's next. But as long as Oakton is still a place where I feel like I am able to make a difference, where we are focusing on the things that matter to me, so there's a values alignment for me, I will continue to show up and be my best self, and hope others will be their best self so we can change lives, which is what we do when we do our work well.
That's right. Well, thanks for showing up today. It was great to have you, and thank you for 10 years of excellent leadership. I think we're headed in a great direction, and I'm happy to be a part of the ride. So thanks for joining us on Critical Conversations.
Thanks, Rick. I'm happy you're part of the journey with us here.
All right. Thanks. We'll have you on again. Take care, everybody.
The Critical Conversations podcast is recorded at Oakton College, located at 1600 East Gulf Road, Des Plaines, Illinois. The show is sponsored in part by the Oakton College Educational Foundation, produced by Erick Rohn, coordinated by Brenda Cruz, and hosted by Dr. Rick Daniels. For more information or to connect with us, email critsconpod@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for more Critical Conversations.